Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're concluding our study of the Ten Commandments today by turning to Hebrews chapter 12. Now, when we described this experience of the giving of the Ten Commandments and read through Exodus chapter 19 through chapter 34, and the whole experience, the first tablets, the second tablets, we've talked about how fearful the experience was for all the people, that the bit of God's presence they were exposed to at Mount Sinai terrified them to death, and almost literally to death, and it was intended to. And the writer of Hebrews tells us that we Christians we have a different experience of God than they had this side of the cross. That the cross does change everything. And the book of Hebrews is written much like the book of Matthew is written, the Gospel of Matthew is written to Christians who come from a Jewish background. And it's written on the eve of destruction. It really is, because it's written probably in the 60s AD. It is written to Christians who are starting to turn away from their Christianity to embrace their Jewish background. And that's fatal, because the Romans are going to invade. They're going to circle the city of Jerusalem. They're going to destroy it. They're going to kill thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews. And God will, by the year 70, by the year 80-70, destroy with the iron fist of the Roman army Mosaic Judaism once and for all. It no longer exists. It is gone. God destroyed it. There's no more priesthood. There's no more temple. There's no more holy place or holiest place. There's no more sacrificing of the scapegoat on the Day of Atonement. None of that. None of that. It's gone. God destroyed it all with the destruction of Jerusalem. And Judaism as it exists is something that has been invented to replace Mosaic Judaism, but it is not Mosaic Judaism. And so the writer of Hebrews is writing to this people saying, what we have is so much better. The whole book is saying that. And the culmination of that argument is this, going all the way back to the giving of the law. You want to hold on to the law? Do you remember what it was to receive the law? Do you remember what it is to receive the gospel? Those are completely, utterly different experiences. And one is so far superior to the other. Don't you remember any of this? You as Jews should know better than anyone else how receiving the law of Moses and receiving the gospel of Jesus Christ are not the same experience at all. And he describes that difference in Hebrews 12, verses 18 through 29. And I'm going to read the whole passage. You have not come to a mountain that may be touched, and to a blazing fire, and to darkness and gloom and a whirlwind, and to the blast of the trumpet, a sound of words, the sound that was such that those who heard it begged that no further word should be spoken to them. They couldn't bear the command, if even a beast touches the mountain, it will be stoned. So terrible was the sight that Moses said, I am full of fear and trembling. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the mountain, to the city of the living God, to heavenly Jerusalem, to thousands upon thousands of angels, to the assembly and the church of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to spirits of righteous men made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and the sprinkled blood, which speaks better than the blood of Abel, going not just far enough back to go to the law, but going all the way back to the to creation times, to the time of the patriarchs. See to it that you do not refuse him who is speaking. For if those who did not escape when they refused him who warned them on the earth, much less shall we escape who turn away from him who warns us from heaven. And his voice shook the earth then, but now he is promising, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also heaven. And he's quoting the prophet Haggai, chapter 2, verse 6. And this expression, yet once more, denotes the removing of those things which can be shaken, as of created things, in order that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we have received a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us show gratitude, by which we may offer to God an acceptable service with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. So we begin and end with the God who is utterly beyond our comprehension, whose greatness, when we are exposed to us, rattles us. But it doesn't rattle us, Christians, anymore, because we belong to him as his children. He hasn't ceased to be that God that is that glorious, that magnificent, that you can't bear his presence as a human being. Your physical bodies are incapable of it. The way when John in Revelation chapter 1 sees Jesus in his glorified state, he falls down as dead because his physical body cannot bear that. And Jesus really has to resurrect him in the moment. The message is that God has not ceased to be that God, but what he offers us is different through Jesus Christ. We have the blood of Jesus. It's the blood of a better covenant. It's better than the blood of Abel in communicating truth. What we have is a welcome home. The prodigal's welcome home. We have thousands of angels rejoicing, as Jesus said they would in Luke chapter 16, when we return. We have all of that offered to us. Why would you give that up for what you had before when we couldn't bear it? We couldn't keep the law, and we couldn't bear up under the presence of God on the terms of the law. But we don't have that anymore. What we have with God is different because of Jesus Christ. And as we remember the Ten Commandments, and think about the Ten Commandments in comparison to the Beatitudes that we just studied, and we talk about the lingering truth of the Ten Commandments and the expansive nature of those commands and of the Beatitudes, let's remember who we're serving. Our God, who is a consuming fire, but who has welcomed us into his family as his children through the shedding of his own blood in Jesus on the cross. And that is more glorious to contemplate than anything that God did in the Old Testament. And it should change absolutely everything about the way we live. Okay. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word, and for joining me on this study. And so we'll continue our study next time. We'll see you then.